Well, hi there, David.
Hi, Graham.
It is a night tonight, and how are you doing on this night?
I am a little chilly, but glad to be here with you.
I'm a little chilly, too. I think my brain's kind of frozen. However, I do have a joke for you.
So what do you think it would happen if I was like, I don't want to hear one?
Oh, you would throw me for a loop. So that's what would happen.
Well, I wouldn't want that to happen, so fire away.
You know, David, we have a lot of wildlife coming through our yard, mostly squirrels and things, but recently we had a wolf in our yard.
You had a wolf?
A wolf, yeah.
In your suburban yard?
Yeah. And you know what? I taught that wolf how to meditate.
You did?
Now he's a werewolf.
Topical seasonally.
He's aware.
He's a werewolf.
He's aware.
He's a werewolf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want me to rate my own joke? I'll save you the trouble.
Sure.
It's a 2.
It's a 2?
It's a 2.
I was going to say 3, so.
2.5 then.
2.5 is what I was going for.
You got one for me?
I got one for you. Okay. Graham, what do you call a cowboy who teaches acting and singing?
Aware boy.
Like Roy Rogers.
I don't know. What?
A stagecoach.
Oh, okay. Yep. Do you just go to like cowboyjokes.com? Where are you finding all these?
No.
Okay. That's
a thing?
That's a 5.
Bookmarking that page. Oh, thanks. You know what? Enough of the nonsense. Let's get on with the nonsense. Welcome back to Withywindle, a whimsical interactive show for kids who love stories, words, and groan-worthy jokes featuring your favorite authors and illustrators. It's part book club, part game show. It's your weekly adventure through the wild world of wordplay. I'm David Kern.
And I'm Graham Pittman.
Oh, good.
You said yours is kind of long, and I did mine very short.
Oh, right. You wanted to...
And I'm Graham Pittman.
Grandpa.
And
Sounds a little bit like Grandpa. Man, I'm grumpy.
Grumpy and Grandpa are two things I will be at one stage. Hopefully. I will get there.
Well, this week we have a great show for you. Our very special guest on this week's episode, the 4.5 episode, the 4.5 episode. The fifth episode of the fourth season, is Pam Munoz Ryan.
Wow.
She wrote many great books, including her new book, Solimar. So we had a great time chatting with her and are excited to share that with you. Of course, this being Withywindle, we also have snack time, lazy words, story time, and a riddle at the end of the episode.
That's a lot of time.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Should we do that?
I like the way this episode's headed.
Okay, good. So you're good with it then?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Because I was worried, like, what if Graham comes in to the episode this week and he thinks to himself, I don't like how the episode is headed.
Right.
And I think I'm going to switch it up. And I'm not going to tell David. I'm just going to switch it up.
Instead of story time, it becomes nonfiction hour.
Yeah, or no, it just becomes. I can
it's
see
like
you coming
facts about boat building. Well, actually, that sounds pretty cool. We're both dad age, so
yeah, that's true. It's like
maybe we should have
cobble your own shoes.
Maybe we should have cobble time.
Cobble time. Each episode is a different thing, like boat time, cobble time.
Sounds like another podcast we should start.
Pencil minute.
Okay, you lost me. I don't want pencil minute.
Oh, sorry. Well, before we get on to this week's show, we need to tell everybody about something awesome that's happening. You kind of mentioned it last week. Mm-hmm. We have an event coming up with S.D. Smith.
Oh.
And that is because he has a new book coming out. Did you know, Graham, that his original series, the Green Never series, sold more than 1 million copies?
That cannot be true.
No, it's true. Or at least he claims it's true.
1 million?
1 million copies.
That's 1 0 0. I'm already lost.
Yeah, it's that many.
It's more than 100.
There's more zeros than you can count.
There's more zeros than I can even think of.
Well, from S.D. Smith comes a brand new story with an old soul, the can't-miss first adventure in a thrilling new series. It's called Jack, Zulu, and the Waylander's Key, and it's an enchanting adventure in the tradition of people like J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, but also Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. But this fantastical journey launches in rural West Virginia in the 1980s with a half Appalachian, half African kid trying to escape the town he sees defining his small and sad life. He discovers a gate hiding a city between 12 realms and finds out where he truly belongs in this surprising and satisfying adventure. And here's a few things that are true about this story, Graham. S.D. Smith, he wrote this with his son Josiah, which I think is really cool.
That is really cool. My Rowan and I tried to write a story together tonight, and it did not go well. we were sitting around the campfire. Wait, this is, I'll tell you about this later. Not in the middle of this.
Not in the middle either. Okay. So it's a true family operation, much like Graham's storytelling attempts. I can tell you, my kids like Jack Zulu and the Waylander Key because we got a copy.
Hold on.
And we've been reading it as a family. We're not too far into it yet, but let me tell you, it's good.
And I didn't get invited for your family story time?
Well, you were doing story time around the fire with Rowan.
Okay, I see.
So,
schedule of, conflict.
Exactly. Schedule of conflict. Yeah. And so if your kids love Green Ember, or I don't know, if you're a kid listening to this series of episodes and you like the Green Ember, then this is a great book for you.
And unlike David, I haven't read this book, but I have seen the cover. And it reminds me of the 80s, and the 80s were a cool time. And this book looks cool. And I'm excited to get it at the event that we are going to put on. I'm going to get a copy. I'm going to have Sam sign it.
That's right.
So if you are anywhere within walking, boating, running, bicycling, penny farthing, ballooning. Yep, ballooning. Swimming.
Crawling?
Pony riding.
If you're within crawling distance, you might as well just walk. But
yeah, you might as well. But,
So November 20th, we are going to be hosting a launch party here in Concord, North Carolina. So if you just go to goldberrybooks.com, you can find the link to sign up for that and buy tickets. There's only a few tickets left. We're well over half sold at least.
Yeah.
So, if you want to come, make sure you grab those tickets.
If you go to Goldberry Books, you'll scroll around, you'll see a picture of Sam's face, and there's a button near that. The tickets are very cheap. They're $5. If you want to come and see Sam, he's going to be singing. I think he said he's going to do at least 45 minutes of dance.
Yeah, right.
Like pure tap dance.
Yeah, and I think maybe some Irish dance.
And then maybe he'll read a little bit from the book and do some games and things, but mostly dance.
Well, although maybe we shouldn't talk too much about the dancing in case he decides not to do it.
Oh, yeah, which he probably...
There's always a chance that S.T. Smith will decide not to dance.
We'll just say right now, he doesn't know he's going to be dancing.
But we're planning on asking him to dance.
We're planning on asking him, yeah.
So it's going to be like a little bit of a cross between the S.T. Smith Variety Hour and a live Withywindle show. So that's going to be really fun. But if you can't make the show, you can still get the book, which is on pre-order right now. Ooh. It officially mails on November 15th for those who are not coming to the launch party. So if you just go to jackzulu.com, JACKZULU.com, you can go buy your copy and sign up for the newsletter and all kinds of stuff.
Awesome.
So do that. jackzulu.com.
I fully anticipate that Jack Zulu, at some point, we will be saying also sold 1 million copies, which, as far as I know, is 100. It's one with 1 million zeros after, right? Is that right?
Okay, everybody, we're going to have snack time in a minute, and we're going to take a break so I can teach Graham some basic math. So we'll be right back.
1 million snacks.
Okay, we are back. I corrected Graham's. You know what? It was hopeless. I didn't really get very far, but I tried to correct Graham's math and teach him some things. But he's going to have to go to a remedial course with a true math teacher.
That's the story of my life. I need a remedial course for every subject.
Well, I bet you won't need a remedial course for what we're about to eat. It's snack time, and our friend Brandon LeBlanc. I don't think you're supposed to say it, LeBlanc. He sent us some snacks from the west of the Mississippi, I believe.
That's correct.
And so I've got this box here. I'm going to grab it, and then we're going to open it.
It is a themed box. I've looked inside it. I may have already opened a few of the things in there. Okay. But you'll notice, just by a cursory glance, that everything you're seeing is green. So why don't you pull some things out of there?
That's not green at all, Graham.
Well, that one's not.
The first thing I pulled out is blue.
Okay, well, that's not green, but that...
And these are tortilla chips that are Texas-shaped. Well, they were. I think some of them broke.
Yes?
I think some of those broke in transit. Here, you want to open those? Because who doesn't...
These tortilla chips are, Texas-shaped tortilla chips, and they go along...
Which, honestly, Texas just looks like a broken chip.
And they go along with this salsa, which is green.
Hatch green chili salsa verde, medium heat. Oh, I'll eat this. You might have to carry this episode because I like Hatch chili salsa verde. Do you?
Oh, yes, very much so. Okay. And so, as you can see in the rest of the box here, everything is Hatch green chili. So
Hatch green chili tortilla chips.
Yep.
Made from organic. Oh, these are open.
So this would be like Doritos, but Hatch green chili.
Oh my goodness.
And yes, our friend Brandon is from Louisiana and also Texas,
Yeah, he lives
where
in,
Hatch green chilies are a big deal.
lives in Tejas.
I can't remember if he's told me about them before. He's the only reason I know about Hatch.
I'm sorry that I'm just chomping away on these into the microphone, but they're delicious. Did you try them?
Yeah, that's why they're open. He previously, in years past, has brought me many bags of those.
Okay. This last thing here is Hatch chili and sweet lime sandwich cookies. The perfect mixture of sweet and heat, it says. Did you try these?
You'll notice those are open as well.
Did you try them?
Yes.
Okay, because my wife came into the room the other day and she was like, "What are these delicious things?"
And she'd been snacking on them?
Are we supposed to have those open? But I didn't eat them because I wanted to save it for the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll blame your wife then. I did not open them. It was definitely your wife. So Hatch green chilies, I believe they're from, from New Mexico.
These smell so limey.
Well, they have lime in them. That's why.
Not to be confused with blimey. I don't know what that means.
So Hatch chilies are kind of sweet, kind of smoky, grown in the Southeast. Yeah, and I'd never had them until I was introduced. Well, I've never lived in Texas or New Mexico or Arizona, so I'm sure all of our listeners from there are like, yeah, duh. Of course, they're amazing.
This is incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of like gingery and limey cookie.
And then, so at first you have the lime, and it smells a lot like lime.
Yep.
And as you're eating it, the back of your throat gets a little bit of the spice.
Yeah.
This is...
it's quite a cookie.
It's one of the 7 wonders of the world, I think.
I like that, yeah. And it's got a nice pattern on it. It's a great cookie.
So shout out to our really good pal, Brandon, and his whole family.
Yeah.
They moved to Texas from here, and they work with you.
Well, they lived in Texas, then they moved out here, and then they got to know us, and then they moved back.
That's right, yeah. But then he sent us snacks, so it's confusing. But anyway, thanks to him and Brandon, we really appreciate it. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to eat this seventh wonder of the world, and we can't promise there will be any left when we return. All right, well, we are back from snacking, and it's time for...
No, David, I got to stop you.
If you bring up the hot graham crackers again, I'm going to be upset. And I want to reiterate, I never said they're delicious. So if you do that...
I think you might not have said they're delicious. I think you definitely think that is delicious. And guess what? I posted on our Instagram a little story. Mm-hmm. Little video, this clip that we did last time with the picture of some graham crackers in a cauldron. And yeah, most people were like, no, I've never heard of this. But yeah, I got to admit, there was a couple people that said, yep, this is a thing. So I stand corrected.
Vindicated. I'm vindicated. And my mom texted me, and because I guess she was listening.
Yeah.
I told you she would be listening in the car and
laughing.
Yeah. Okay. So she texted me and said that she had forgotten about hot graham crackers. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah. So a couple of people said, yeah, this was a thing. I don't know them personally. Probably liars.
Well, I mean, I paid like 700 people to...
Oh, and only two said...
No, different places on the internet. Because if it all goes to the same place, then it seems planned. But if you just kind of spread it across the internet...
The misinformation, yeah.
Then it'll eventually come back around, and there'll be like a lot of people eating hot graham crackers.
I've heard that the internet is very good for mis and disinformation. So good job contributing to that. But this is
also information.
This is not what I was going to say. Back to snack time. Not about hot graham cracker time.
Okay.
We're coming up on Halloween.
Yeah.
Last year, we talked about our favorite Halloween candies. I'd say we should do something similar maybe next episode, but as a precursor, let's just dip our toe into the Halloween pool. Do you have a Halloween candy that you think is really underrated?
Well...
Or is there one you like that other people are like eager to get rid of?
Is this like a situation where like Rowan doesn't like Reese's peanut butter cups, but everybody else does?
Maybe. I mean, if you...
No, okay, so...
I would say it's just like one maybe most people don't like. It's the opposite of that.
I don't know.
Okay, because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about those circus peanuts.
Yes, which I do not like.
So I think you're in the majority. Like 90% of people are probably like, no, thank you. And I'm like, give me all of those, please. But that's not really a Halloween candy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I do love those mini fruity Tootsie Rolls.
Oh, yeah, the fruit chew.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
Oh, you like it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's an underrated
the great
one.
thing is, they're underrated and they're not available as easily everywhere.
Oh, that's
which
true.
is kind of like 100 grand, which is the other one I like. That's not. It's a little bit harder to find year round.
That is an underrated one.
Yeah.
Because it's like crispy and caramely and chocolately.
Yep. It's got multiple textures.
Yeah. And people don't talk about it.
Right. Exactly. And we already went through how many zeros are in a million. So talk about 100 grand.
How many zero bars are in a million? How many millions of zero bars?
How many zero bars are in a million?
Yeah.
How many
the
zeros
zero bar?
does it take to get to a million?
You know the zero bar?
I do know the zero bar,
Yeah. If you had a million zero bars, would you just have zero?
You know what, Graham? You're making me do a lot of mental work, which is not the point of Lazy Words. Lazy Words is a segment where we celebrate things or laugh at things that are lazy.
Last week, we posited that scarecrow is a particularly lazy word.
Because it is.
And with a week of reflection, I still agree with myself.
You stand by it.
So the kids were requested to come up with a new word for scarecrow.
Yes.
And they did so. Emily came up with prograin, the protector of the grain. And she even gave an example. Kids, look, there's the prograin. The prograin is pro-grain.
The advertisement writes itself.
For the grain, against all Corvid's insight. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Emily. Olivia thinks it should be called Hey Man. Which I like that. Like, hey, man.
They do look like they're kind of waving.
Like, hey, man.
Or they don't have arms at all.
Olivia also says, I've never heard of hot graham crackers. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Olivia, we're not friends anymore.
Anna said strawophobia. Lucy says crow nightmare.
Crow dream.
The Nygaards think it should be called farmer's best friend. That's nice. That's a very friendly.
And it's a lot better than scarecrow.
Yeah.
In fact, it's like the opposite whole vibe.
All right. Gideon. This is a good one. Garden guard.
Yeah. The Gardenian.
Carolyn thinks it should be called Peaceful Gardener, and Baron thinks it should be called Straw Man Chupacabra. Yeah.
That's excellent. Okay, do you have a lazy word for this week there, Graham?
All right, this week. Say you're going on a nice walk.
Okay.
So you're going to check on your scarecrow, make sure it's,
in the field. Yeah,
it's got its hat is still there.
Yeah, because if it's not still standing or it's lost some of its costume, then how can it scare crows away?
It can't.
Right.
It would just be a pile of nonsense in a field.
A crow friend.
Anyway, a crow friend. Anyway, so you're walking out in the field.
Yep.
You're adjusting the scarecrow hat.
Yep.
You're checking on the corn.
As one does.
Counting the kernels.
Yeah.
That's what farmers do.
Right, yeah.
You look up in the sky.
That's definitely what they do.
You look up in the sky, nice cloudy day.
Misinformation on farmers.
But out of the corner of your eye, those clouds are looking a little dark over there.
They're rolling in.
In the west.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming over the mountain.
Yep.
Which is fine. You're good with that. You need some water.
You need some water.
You need some water.
Yeah.
But you turn around, you're looking at those clouds, and you say,
looks like the rain clouds are coming.
Yeah, that's it.
Looks?
Nope.
Like?
Nope.
Oh, rain cloud.
Rain cloud.
Oh, yeah, that is lazy.
Rain cloud. So we've got a couple different kinds of clouds, right? You got your cumulus, you got your stratus,
cirrus.
You got your cirrus, you got your
the
nimbus,
big fluffies,
and you got your rain
clouds.
Just clouds full of rain.
Just ready to dump the rain.
It's a strange one. Because yes, those clouds do. The rain does come from them, but I don't know about you. I think that's a pretty lazy word.
I think it is too. I mean, scarecrows also scare away crows, but that doesn't mean it's not lazy.
Doesn't mean it's not lazy. So kids, we need help.
So then how should kids solve our problem, Graham?
They should write us in at podcasts@goldberrybooks.com.
Podcasts@goldberrybooks.com. And then if you're one of the lucky ones, Graham might even reply to you.
I try my best. And also, keep sending us drawings. We got a couple of you, David, in a bowl of milk getting chased by a angry graham cracker. I'll show you those in a little bit. Very funny. And then we are about to do story time. And again, we would like to hear some feedback on how you guys are liking story time. It's a little different this season.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Graham, I've got an idea. Why don't kids draw you as a angry rain cloud?
Okay.
Dumping on a scarecrow.
Yeah. I like this. And where are you? You're like in a nice cozy cabin.
Yeah,
I'm eating your milk.
I'm in the cabin and I'm eating corn on the cob because plentiful harvest.
You worked hard.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. All right. Well, that is the end of lazy work. Hey, I'm just gonna give up. See what I did?
Yes.
See what I did? That's the end of Lazy Words. We'll be back with story time in just a minute. All right, Graham, we're back. It's time for story time.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's my turn to share a story. So this week's story is going to be from Andrew Lang's The Red Fairy book.
Heard of it?
Yeah, and it's going to be a story called The True Story of Little Golden Hood.
Oh, I can't wait. Wait, what? Whoa, what's that? Oh my goodness. This again?
Hey, boys.
Is that Glenn McCarty again?
Sheesh.
He keeps showing up unannounced. Hi, Glenn.
Hey, more trivia.
Okay, we have another outlaw question here. Because most of the Great Western trivia is just about outlaws anyway.
Yes.
Okay. What outlaw, Glenn McCarty, wore socks over his boots during his robberies?
That is so tacky.
A, are you ready?
Yes.
A, Black Bart. B, Clay Allison. C, Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Or D, Sundance Kid.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Well, Shoeless Joe.
Not sockless.
Yeah, well, and also, like, Shoeless Joe, this is about who wore their socks over their boots, not who didn't wear boots at all.
No, it's right. Yeah, unless it was just a really terrible nickname.
Yeah. But he did steal bases.
That's true.
Is that robbery?
Is that robbery?
Oh.
He stole other stuff too. Kids, ask your parents. But I have a lot of questions about wearing socks over your boots. Is the idea he took his socks off, then put his boots on, and then put his socks on over it? Or did he have extra socks in his back pocket? He puts them on over his boots? Because if he does the first version of that, I'm a little worried about blisters. Cowboy boots are notorious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're probably running during a bank robbery.
Yeah. Ooh.
What you thinking?
So not much common sense, I think. I don't see the upside to wearing socks over your boots.
It's a great... Is it because he wanted to protect his boots?
Ooh. Perhaps.
Maybe he didn't want people to see the tread, recognize his tread.
The tread of his cowboy boots.
Is it, let's see. I'm going to go with, did you say Black Bart?
Black Bart A.
Sure. Let's go with that. That's a good name.
Ding.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
Black Bart
Okay.
wore socks over his boots so that he couldn't be tracked.
Yes.
He considered himself, Glenn, a gentleman outlaw and enjoyed taunting his victims by leaving little bits of poetry behind in empty strong boxes to confuse those that would pursue him.
Those were the days when the outlaws wrote poetry.
I know, right?
I'm
civilized outlaw.
Now I'm thinking Black Bart might have had like a monogram of his initials on the soles of his boots that he needed to cover up. He's that type of person.
That kind of guy. A picture is coming together about who this man is.
BB. These are hard questions, and Glenn is mopping up.
2 for 3 so far.
Yes.
Which is in this standard of just a flying passing.
I would be 0 for 3, so.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we do this with you? We should have made it a competition between the two.
No.
I like that.
Okay, Glenn, here's the next one. There is a famous gunman and figure in Western lore named Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday.
Now, Glenn, what kind of doctor was Doc Holliday? Was he A?
I think I know this.
Okay.
Can I be bold here?
You can.
I think I know this. I think I read a book not too long ago about him and I believe it was the
Gunfight at the OK Corral.
OK Corral, yeah. Was he a dentist?
All right, here we go.
If Glenn doesn't even wait for the multiple choice and gets this right, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to be so speechless and upset.
He's going to start wearing socks over his boots.
Yeah.
Okay. A doctor of education. B, a doctor of philosophy. C, he wasn't a doctor of anything. Or D, a doctor of dentistry. You want to stick with dentistry?
That third one. He wasn't a doctor of anything. I feel like that was like he just liked the way it sounded. I'm going to stick with dentist.
All right. It's a moment of truth. Ready?
It is. It really is.
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh.
At age 21, Holiday earned a degree in dentistry from the Pennsylvania College of Dental Surgery.
Yeah, not.
Then he got tuberculosis and had to leave. So
that'll do it.
Wait, he had to leave the school? Like, did he actually get his degree?
In Georgia. Yeah, he got the degree, set up a dental practice in Georgia. And let me tell you, I don't like to think about dental work in the 1880s.
No.
Then he got tuberculosis and had to go to a drier climate, so he went and shot people in the West.
Cool.
I'm honestly surprised they had a college for dentistry.
Did he shoot him in the? Did he shoot him in the teeth? And then do surgery on him?
That's more about like aim than it is, anything else. Okay.
Let's speak of a root canal, man.
Wow.
What a joke. Well, thanks to Glenn McCarty for stopping by. It was unannounced, but we had a great time. And be sure to go check out his Kickstarter to help the Golden Road of Tumbleweed Thompson get to print this spring. Go to Kickstarter, search Tumbleweed Thompson, it'll show up, or you can go to glennmccarty.com. All right. You know what? Let's get on with this story because that's what this segment, we were in the middle of that segment when we got interrupted. And as I said, this is the true history of Little Golden Hood. Are you ready for this one, Graham?
Is it like Red Riding Hood? Is there more hood?
Can I read it?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right.
All will be revealed, I assume.
So here's how the story goes, according to Andrew Lang. You know the tale of poor Little Red Riding Hood. That the wolf deceived and devoured with her cake, her little butter can, and her grandmother. Well, the true story happened quite differently as we know now. And first of all, the little girl was called, and is still called, Little Golden Hood. Secondly, it was not she, nor the good grand dame, but the wicked wolf who was in the end caught and devoured. Only listen. The story begins something like the tale. You know that story, right?
Hold on. The wolf was caught and devoured?
I think in the original.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, Golden Hood. He's saying this is the true story.
This is the true story where the wolf gets caught.
They even got the color wrong.
Yeah, we're going to find out.
Okay.
As stories get passed on, sometimes things get mixed up. Okay, so the story begins something like the tale. There once was a little peasant girl, pretty and nice as a star in its season. Her real name was Blanchette, but she was more often called Little Golden Hood on account of a wonderful little cloak with a hood, gold and fire-colored, which she always had on.
Sounds like a good piece of clothing.
I know, for real. This little hood was given her by her grandmother, who was so old that she did not know her own age.
Wow.
It ought to bring her good luck, for it was made of a ray of sunshine, she said. I assume she means the cloak, not her age. And as the good old woman was considered something of a witch, everyone thought the little hood rather bewitched too.
Ooh.
And so it was, as you will see. One day the mother said to the child, "Let us see, my little golden hood, if you know how to find your way by yourself. You shall take this good piece of cake to your grandmother for a Sunday treat tomorrow. You will ask her how she is, and come back at once, without stopping to chatter on the way with people you don't know.
Right.
Do you understand?" "I quite understand," replied Blanchette gaily, and off she went with the cake, quite proud of her errand. But the grandmother lived in another village, and there was a big wood to cross before getting there. At the turn of the road, under the trees, suddenly the wolf leapt out and said, "Who goes there?" He had seen the child start alone, and the villain was waiting to devour her.
At the turn.
Well, yeah, you don't just jump out
You don't
before
just
the turn.
Yeah, on the straight. Never.
Are you a wolf?
Yeah.
Yeah. When at the same... Are you?
Keep going.
When at the same moment he perceived some woodcutters who might observe him, and he changed his mind. Instead of falling upon Blanchette, he came frisking up to her like a good dog. "'Tis you, my nice little golden hood," said he. So the little girl stopped to talk with the wolf, who, for all that, she did not know in the least. "You know me then," said she. "What is your name?" "My name is Friend Wolf. And where are you going thus, my pretty one, with your little basket on your arm?" "I'm going to my grandmother to take her a good piece of cake for her Sunday treat tomorrow." "And where does she live, your grandmother?" "She lives at the other side of the wood, in the first house in the village near the windmill, you know." "Ah, yes, I know now," said the wolf. "Well, that's just where I'm going. I shall get there before you, no doubt, with your little bits of legs, and I'll tell her you're coming to see her.
It's quite a coincidence.
She'll wait for you."
This is.
I know, it's a I'd really be wondering if I was her. But, she's a little girl. Mm-hmm. Thereupon the wolf cut across the wood and in 5 minutes arrived at the grandmother's house. He knocks at the door. No answer. He knocks louder. Nobody. Then he stands up on end, puts his 2 forepaws on the latch, and the door opens. Not a soul in the house. The old woman had risen early to sell herbs in the town, and she had gone off in such haste that she had left her bed unmade, with her great nightcap on the pillow.
Grandma's.
Oh, good, said the wolf to himself. I know what I'll do. He shut the door, pulled on the grandmother's nightcap down to his eyes, and then he lied down all his length in the bed and drew the curtains.
Okay, so I kind of understand the grandma in this situation. There's been many times where I've woke up and it's been herb day in the village.
Right, yeah.
And I've just been like, just shoot out of house. Sometimes I'm still in my night clothes.
Yeah.
My night hat.
Right, yeah.
Barefoot.
Well,
so I get it.
The thing is, I mean, you wear snow pants to bed, so.
Snow pants, yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you're always ready for anything.
Yep.
It might explain why you sweat so much, but,
That's worth it for herb day.
Right. The 3 days a year when it snows here, too. In the meantime, the good Blanchette went quietly on her way, as little girls do, amusing herself here and there by picking Easter daisies, watching the little birds making their nests, and running after the butterflies which fluttered in the sunshine.
Just having a good old time.
That's right. It sounds like a lovely day. Logan, why don't we get some lovely day sounds here? Thank you. At last, she arrived at the door. Who's there? Said the wolf, softening his rough voice as best he can. It's me, Granny, your little golden hood. I'm bringing you a big piece of cake for your Sunday treat tomorrow. Press your finger on the latch, then push and the door opens. Why, you've got a cold, Granny, said she, coming in. Ahem, a little, replied the wolf, pretending to cough. Shut the door well, my little lamb. Put your basket on the table and then take off your frock and come and lie down by me. You shall rest a little. The good child undressed, but observe this. She kept her little hood upon her head. When she saw what a figure her granny cut in bed, the poor little thing was much surprised. Oh, cries she, how like you are to friend Wolf, grandmother. That's on account of my nightcap, child, replies the wolf. Oh, what hairy arms you've got, grandmother. All the best to hug you, my child. Oh, what a big tongue you've got, grandmother. All the better for answering, child. Oh, what a mouthful of great white teeth you have, grandmother. Well, that's for crunching little children with. Oh, and the wolf opened his jaws wide to swallow Blanchette. But she put down her head, crying, Mama, Mama, and the wolf only caught her little hood. Thereupon, oh dear, he draws back, crying and shaking his jaw as if he had swallowed. What do you think it was?
A boot.
Red hot coals.
With a boot inside.
With a boot inside the coals? Or the
boot
coals
holding
inside the boot?
Coals.
It was the little fire-colored hood that had burnt his tongue right down his throat. The little hood, you see, was one of those magic caps that they used to have in former times, in the stories, for making oneself invisible or invulnerable or things like that. You know. So there was the wolf, with his throat burnt, jumping off the bed and trying to find the door, howling and howling as if all the dogs in the country were at his heels. Just at this moment, the grandmother arrived, returning from the town with her long sack empty on her shoulder. Ah, brigand! She cries. Quickly, she opened her sack wide across the door, and the maddened wolf springed his head downwards.
That's interesting.
Head downwards.
Yeah, that's how you answer your door. Usually,
well, how I answer when you call.
Ha, brigand! Anytime anybody comes a calling.
Right. I mean, I just want to be prepared in case someone is a brigand.
Hasn't happened yet, but
It is he now that is caught, swallowed like a letter in the post. For the brave old dame shut her sack, and she ran and emptied it in the well, where the vagabond, still howling, tumbled in and was drowned. Ah, scoundrel, you thought you could crunch my little grandchild. Well, tomorrow we will make her a muff of your skin, and yourself shall be crunched, for we will give your carcass to the dogs.
Oh dear.
Thereupon the
Granny knows how to taunt.
I know, that's right. Thereupon the grandmother hastened to dress poor Blanchette, who was still trembling with fear in the bed. Well, she said to her, without my little hood, where would you be now, darling? And to restore the heart and legs to the child, she made her eat a good piece of her cake and drink a good draught of wine, after which she took her by the hand and led her back to the house. And then, who was it who scolded her when she knew all that had happened? It was the mother. But Blanchette promised over and over again that she would never more stop to listen to a wolf, so that at last the mother forgave her. And Blanchette, the little golden hood, kept her word, and in fine weather she may still be seen in the fields with her pretty little hood, the color of the sun. But to see her, you must rise early.
Whoa.
The end.
Got kind of creepy at the end there.
Or maybe we should read it like this. But to see her, you must rise early.
Yeah, I'd say she probably draws a lot of attention to herself. Walking through the woods,
exactly.
like just shiny gold, like a coin, just kind of like rolling down the path.
Yeah. And a hood that if you eat it turns your mouth and, sets your mouth on
But
fire.
I like how she has such a distinct piece of clothing that she's known by it, you know?
Yeah. I would be like Goldberry hoodie.
Goldberry hoodie? Somebody should write that fairy tale.
Goldberry hood.
Goldberry hood. Little Goldberry hood.
What about you?
Oh, I just have like a mauve sock.
Talk about boots.
A mauve sock that way if you try to eat it. No, why would you eat it? If you get kicked by it, turns you to stone.
Turned you. Okay.
No, I like to kick things. I wouldn't like everything I kick turn to stone, like soccer balls and.
Yeah. If you kick things that turn to stone, then your foot hurts.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I just want comfy socks.
All right. Well, that was story time. Thanks to Andrew Lang for writing that one, and Graham, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
We're about to share our conversation with Pam Munoz Ryan. Pam is a very successful, very decorated writer. Mm-hmm. She has written over 40 books for young people, including picture books, early readers, and middle grade and young adult novels. She's won a bunch of awards, including she was a 2018 nominee for the International Hans Christian Andersen Award. Some of her books have even been made into plays. So you probably know her for books like Esperanza Rising, or Echo, or Manana Land, or her book that came out this year, Solimar. We had a great time chatting with her.
Yeah, I think she's probably one of the most requested authors
that we've ever had on the show.
And we finally nabbed her.
That's right. That's right.
She was wearing her protective hood.
That's true. Yeah.
She's fine.
Here's our conversation with Pam Munoz Ryan. On the other side will be Riddle Time. Okay, well, we are here with somebody who we have wanted to have on this podcast since season 1, since we began, and we are so excited to finally make it happen. This is Pam Munoz Ryan. Pam, thanks so much for joining Withywindle.
Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here.
So, Pam, as is usual, as is our custom here, we have a lot of questions from the kids, and we start each episode with this question. We tell people it's the most important question that you're going to be asked on this podcast. So, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Most important question. Cheetos or Doritos?
Cheetos.
That was quick. You knew right away.
Baked, not soft and squishy.
Oh, baked Cheeto. Okay. Yeah. Very specific type.
We got asked this question in the first episode way back when, and ever since we've been asking it because it's led to a lot of interesting discussions. Are you in general somebody who is a snacker while you write?
Not generally, but I am a sipper. I mean, I've always got a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a glass of lemonade, something. So definitely a sipper, but my office is in my home. So, and the kitchen isn't so far away. So I'm up and down and up and down.
Yeah. When you're snacking, savory or sweet more?
Savory and an occasional sweet.
Okay. And then one more food question for you, which these are all questions the kids all, they love to hear people talk about food. Do you prefer cake or cookies?
Oh, cookies. Yeah.
And what's your go-to cookie?
I make a kitchen sink cookie. That is kind of my go-to that I make all the time. And it has coconut and dried cherries, and it has macadamia nuts and oatmeal and chocolate chips and white chocolate chip. So it's like everything but the kitchen sink.
Sounds delicious. Okay. Before we get into the rest of these questions, could you give a quick introduction of who you are and what your work tends to be about and some of your titles? Because, there's going to be some kids who have not necessarily read a lot of your books, but how did you get into writing and just give us a little, the quick elevator pitch of your work, if you would. Just kind of, it's easy. It's better when they hear it from you.
Okay, well, I'm Pam Munoz Ryan. I started out writing many years ago, almost 30 years ago, writing picture books for children. That was my avenue into the writing world. I did a number of picture books, and kids can see them on my websites. More notably, Mice and Beans and the Tony Baloney series, and different things like that. I had a wonderful editor and agent who suggested that I try my hand at a novel, and so I began writing novels. My first novel for children, for third and fourth graders, was Writing Freedom. Then Esperanza Rising, Becoming Naomi Leon, Paint the Wind, Echo, The Dreamer, Solimar, Mañana Land. So I progressed. And then, of course, I've also, in between novels, written picture books for older readers, like When Marian Sang and Amelia and Eleanor Go for a Ride. I'm very intrigued. Some of my work is historical fiction. I'm very intrigued by little-known stories in history, as you might know. So when I find out something that happened that's totally intriguing that maybe most people don't know about, then it makes me even more interested in researching it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So Pam, what were some of your favorite books as a kid?
Well, I didn't become a huge reader till about fifth grade. So I wasn't as fortunate as most of your listeners in that the library in my town wasn't near my house. I lived on another side of town. The only thing available to me, and it wasn't until the summer before fifth grade that I began going to this little tiny small branch library. Looking back on it, I realized that the collection was probably very outdated because a lot of the books that I read had been written many years before, had been published many years before. I went through a period of time where I read everything that Marguerite Henry wrote, a lot of horse books, a lot of series books from that time period, but also that were probably 20 and 30 years old, only because, like I said, it was a very small library with a very limited collection. So I started out reading a lot of series books, but then I grew into older titles, and from fifth grade on, I became what you would probably call an obsessive reader.
So do you remember like the first in those years? Do you remember the first book that you were like, that you fell in love with, that kind of like whisked you away and made you think this is just amazing?
I mean, I read a lot of classics. I never really stopped. Once I fell into books and sort of escaped into them, I just never really stopped. I can't remember one book. I mean, I remember some books from high school that will probably be much older references than the people that are listening. But I do remember, as I got older, reading a lot of Ray Bradbury. And falling in love with his work. And I also was a huge fan at a young age of the Greek myths and fairy tales. My grandma had Greek myths in the middle of this encyclopedia. And so I would go to that section that was illustrated, and I would read these 2 or 3 page illustrated Greek myths, and was very, very intrigued by them. And of course, always very in love with fairy tales as well. And if you've read my book, Echo, you'll see that even just writing the original fairy tale was something that was so compelling for me. So I sort of found my roots there.
Well, we have a couple questions about Echo, and then later on, I have a little quiz for you that's Echo themed, and that's because there's a woman who works for us at our bookstore named Nancy. I guarantee you she's going to listen to this. She loves Echo, and she sells it a lot, and she tells people about it.
Thank you, Nancy.
So I did an Echo quiz in her honor, so in honor of Nancy. So we're going to get to that in a little bit.
I hope I pass.
Well, don't worry about it. It's not, you will.
Okay.
So you kind of have touched on this, but you said in fifth grade you became kind of like a voracious reader, an obsessive reader. Did you always want to be a writer?
Well, no, because you have to remember, when I went to elementary school many, many years ago, curriculum was very different. And we didn't do things then like the students do now. We didn't write across the curriculum. We didn't make journals at school. We didn't have authors visit our school. I thought all authors were dead. We didn't have family literature nights, any of those things. So I look at what students do today, and I'm sort of jealous because I see them as being so much farther ahead of me than I was at their age. So being a writer wasn't something that was presented to me per se as a job you could do when you grew up. So I wouldn't say that I always wanted to be a writer. I found out that I was good at writing at about junior high level.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was good at writing. But becoming a writer really didn't present itself to me until much later.
Mm.
So that's interesting, Pam. We've actually heard that a few times from different authors, that they thought all authors were either dead or like this is something other people did a long time ago. So we have a question here from Jessica, and I think it's a really interesting question. She wants to know if you have a favorite character from your own books.
Well,
it's an unfair question, isn't it?
Sort of like asking you, if you have a favorite child, right? So I said that once to a group of children, and somebody yelled out in the assembly, well, which one of your children is your favorite child? So certainly when you're in the throes of a book and when you're writing a book, you usually have a favorite. I have to say that Isabel in Esperanza Rising is the most like me as a child, but I didn't recognize that when I wrote the book. In fact, it was years after the book was published that a student pointed out to me, I was visiting a school and talking about my childhood, and a student said to me, oh, just like Isabel. And it really gave me pause. And I remember driving home from that school and thinking about the character and thinking about even how I described her and what she looked like. And I went home and I called my mom and I said, Mom, did you ever think I was a particular character in Esperanza Rising? And she said, well, you're Isabel. So she seemed to be totally, she said like as if she had known that all along. And so when I went back and reflected on the character and what she looked like and her sort of her demeanor in life and her attitude, I realized that that character was very much like I was as a young child.
Mm. It just kind of sprang out of something subconscious or something.
Well, I think we do so much subconsciously, as writers. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you?
And,
Go ahead.
I wish I could be as brave as some of my characters. When you say favorite character, there are some of my characters that I look at, especially people from history, and I think, wow, I wish I could have been as brave or as bold or as outspoken, as they were.
So you mentioned history, and we do have a question here from Torin, and Torin asks if you could go back to any place in time, which decade would you go to? You've got a lot of different, historical contexts that you write about and seem to be interested in, but which one would you want to go back to?
Oh, which one do I want to go back to? That's really hard. Because looking back on some of the challenges that young women had in previous decades, I think it would be interesting to go back just culturally to see what the world was like what the world was like in the 1800s when Charlotte Parkhurst came to California, to drive stagecoaches, during the gold rush. I think it would be fascinating and interesting to observe the world at that time. I'm not sure that I would, it's like, could I go back for just a year and visit and then come back to our time period? Mm-hmm. I think out of curiosity, I would want to go back to any of the time periods I wrote about.
Mm-hmm. Was there one that you had the most fun researching?
Well, fun researching. That's those two.
I know.
those two
a little bit of oxymoron.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, sometimes. Sometimes research is fun, and it's also a writer's greatest mode of procrastination, right? Because it's just a deep, dark hole you fall into, and you need to do that, and you need to do the deep dive. But I found the research in Echo really fascinating, the time periods that it's set, and some of the things I discovered. But in order to write about the year Hitler became chancellor, I had to find out about the years preceding, his rise to power. I had to study the Treaty of Versailles, and I had to read Mein Kampf, and I had to understand why he went to prison after World War I. So sometimes what happens is it's so fascinating, and you're certainly grateful to have not to have had to live through it, but it also really gives you perspective on
Yeah, so this is speaking of what that topic right there. Bryce is interested. He says in your book Echo. Well, he says your book Echo is one of my favorite books, and he's wondering: were you already interested in Germany during World War II before you started writing Echo, or did the story come first and the setting came afterward?
I thought I was writing a completely different book.
Mm.
And when people ask me, how do you get the ideas for a book? It's sort of like a confluence of rivers that come together. It's never just one moment. I was researching a completely different story, our nation's first successful school desegregation case, Roberto Alvarez versus the Lemon Grove School District. And I was there
interesting.
researching that in Lemon Grove, California. And the docent had pulled all the information on the case for me. She even had yearbooks from Lemon Grove Elementary, and she was flipping through them, showing me. And on one of the pages was a little tiny photograph, black and white photograph of a group of children sitting on the steps of the school, each of them holding a Hohner Marine Band harmonica. And as she's flipping through, I said, wait, what's this photo of? And she said, oh, that's back in the day when all the elementary schools had a harmonica band, during the big harmonica band movement in the United States. and, and I said, no, I don't know about that. She goes, oh, yes, there was probably thousands and thousands of schools that had harmonica bands. And anyway, I was really intrigued. I asked her to make a copy of the photograph for me, which she did. And I did gather up all the stuff about the court case that I was researching. And on my way home, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. And I just sort of prayed that it was true, that there had been. And then I started researching, and I found out that there were over 2,500 harmonica bands in schools around the U.S., including Hoxie's band in Philadelphia, which was a huge band of mainly orphan boys that traveled all over the United States and performed. And then I went to Hohner, and they also used Hohner harmonicas. And then I started researching with Hohner in New York, who said, well, if you're really interested in this, you need to go to Hohner in Trossingen, Germany, because they have a museum. So I went to Trossingen, Germany, and found out there that they used to have boy apprentices that worked in the Hohner factory when Hitler became chancellor. So now I had the potential for 3 incredible characters. Friedrich in Germany, Mike and Frankie in Philadelphia, and Ivy Maria in Lemon Grove, California. And then my mind started leaping. What if one harmonica traveled, and what was special about it? And I wanted to infuse it with magic. And as I'm in Germany, I'm passing signs for the Black Forest, which was Grimm's forest. So it was, so many things clicked when I finally got there. That court case that I was researching got a 2-sentence mention in a 600-page book. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the story I set out to write is not the one that demands to be written.
So it seems like Bryce might have been onto something there somehow. All right. And then you've probably gotten this question before, I imagine, as well. But both Alicia and Megan were wondering if you also play harmonica.
Well, I play harmonica badly. You notice I put harmonica tabs in the front of each section of the book, and I can follow the tabs, but I'm by no means a harmonica player. If you want to hear something spectacular, though, the audiobook of Echo is really particularly beautiful. The production company won all sorts of awards for what they did because they're different readers for each section, and they hired a professional harmonica player who's played with symphony orchestras all over the world to compose the soundtrack, and also a pianist for Mike's section, a flutist for Ivy Maria's section, a cellist for Friedrich's section. And in the last scene, the concert scene on the audiobook, it's a full orchestra and a baritone who sings Some Enchanted Evening. So it's quite spectacular.
So I was talking to somebody in our shop recently about this book, and how good the audiobook is came up in conversation. So they were agreeing with you there. So that's when the author is praising the audiobook like that, you got to check it out.
It was everything I never expected, and plus you have to remember they take it someplace that you can never imagined with the music and the emotion of the music. And when I listened to the audiobook, I actually cried and I knew what was going to happen.
So this is a question we get asked frequently is, do authors have any control over the audio versions of their book?
Well, the company I work with, which is Scholastic Audio, Weston Woods, I mean, they have done a number of my books, and they usually send me samples of the readers, and my editor and I get to weigh in on, they'll narrow down all the auditions to a certain number, maybe 4 to 6 or 3 to 5, something like that, and then we all are able to weigh in.
So they're wanting feedback,
right? And
that's great.
Want everybody to be happy. I mean, we've never really had a dispute, over the reader.
Yeah. Hey, okay, so there's a question here from Grace, which is also inspired by Echo, and she wants to know, what is your inspiration and then also process for kind of mixing and matching different genres into one book? It seems like you work in a couple of different genres, but then on the other hand, maybe you don't think about it that way.
Well, I mean, Echo is, as far as the genre goes, historical fiction with a lot of magical realism. So
Right.
That just, if you know any of my books, that I kind of lean toward magical realism. So I don't really think about it that way. My process, as far as my writing process goes, it's far more of an evolution than a process. I think when people say process, they really want to know what your tidy procedure is, like what a list, the order of things. I usually know the opening scene that I'm going to start with, and I introduce my characters and I work on that scene, and I write, and then the next day I go back to the beginning and I rewrite and I edit and I write a little more, and the next day I go back to the beginning, and the next day I go back to the beginning. And I always say I'm not a writer, I'm a rewriter. Those opening chapters get rewritten a lot because I feel like I've got to pull all the threads that foreshadow a lot of the things that are going to happen. And I just keep going that way. And sure, if I get stuck and if I'm in the middle of the project, I'll make a list of things that should or could happen, or I'll have a conversation with my editor, and kind of regroup. And so I have that opening scene in mind. I also know the resolution I want at the end of the story. Like I knew that there was going to be that concert at the end of Echo. I knew that Esperanza Rising, there was going to be the reunion between the grandmother. So I'm working towards that emotional resolution, but I don't always know how I'm going to get there.
Do you find that process frightening or exciting? Like when you're talking about Echo starting that book and thinking it's a completely different book, but then it sounds like you're very open to whatever possibilities are out there and exploring and being curious and going to different countries and then seeing signs for forests and all that stuff.
Well, I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time talking to my editor too, but I knew fairly early on that it was going to be 3 stories and that the harmonica was going to travel. You're asking yourself, I'm asking myself a lot of what if questions. What if, one harmonica traveled between them, but then what was it about that harmonica? Was it infused with some sort of magic? And if it was, how did it get there? And so then what happens is I've got stories, I've got the layout for the stories. And then I realized it's going to be a very big project. It's going to be, it's far more ambitious than I anticipated. And how we worked on it in, sections on, the fairy tale and then the Friedrich story. And so we worked on it on sections and edited in that way as well. So, yeah.
So Graham, I want to break tradition here. We usually ask this question towards the end of an interview, like before we go, but I want to ask it now because we're talking a little bit about writing process. And Graham just, I think he just had a bit of a heart attack when I said that, breaking tradition. Would you have any advice? We have a lot of kids who listen who want to be writers themselves and who are interested in storytelling and things like that. So do you have any advice for young writers who are listening right now?
Well, for young writers, I would say, first of all, use your 5 senses to describe the people, the places that you're writing about. So that gives your reader a real, intimacy and close sense of that character or that place, especially. I would also tell them to get involved in anything that has to, in any of the dramatic arts. creative writing, plays, music. It's all story. Even, when you play a song or when you learn a song, it's all a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a culmination, and, a kind of almost like a circle. So any of the dramatic arts, are great foundations for understanding the concept of story. For older writers or for adult writers, or aspiring writers, I would say to remember that momentum is far more important than inspiration. And what I mean by that is that the revisiting of the manuscript, over and over again, for me, that's where inspiration lies. It has never just kind of poof come to me and then I write madly for 3 weeks and I have a novel. It has never happened that way for me. For me, it's the physical momentum of revisiting the manuscript day after day after day after day where I find inspiration.
Graham, I just want to say those were 2 pieces of advice that I don't know that in all the episodes we've ever done, we've gotten that particular bit of advice.
Yeah.
That was super great.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, that was cool. Graham, why don't you ask one more and then we're going to do our echo quiz.
Sure. Yeah, so this one's from Sabrina. She says, I loved Esperanza Rising. And then her question is, and if you didn't like the what's your favorite character quiz, you're not going to like this one. You're not going to like this. She wants to know what book that you've written is your favorite. So you can answer that, or maybe we just turn it a little bit and say, is there a particular book that you found maybe more challenging to write, or maybe was there one that's really memorable for you because of whatever situation?
She's asking, I don't mind that question at all, because here's what happens. You love them for different reasons. And so it's hard to say favorite because, for instance, I'm very sentimental about Esperanza Rising because it's about my grandmother's, it parallels my grandmother's immigration journey. It's a work of fiction, but it's tied very closely to family history. I loved writing. I love Becoming Naomi Leon because the characters in it are so quirky. And I went to Oaxaca, Mexico. And so when I think about that book, I think about my time there. And then The Dreamer, I went to Chile to research Neruda's life. And I look at that book and everything about that book has certain memories associated with it. And so I sort of love them all for different reasons, and I have different feelings about them, different sentimental feelings.
Yeah.
And Echo, all I can say is I look at that book and I think, I'm so glad I wrote it past tense, that it's done and that I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is one of those ones you're proud of?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good transition. Let's go to our quiz. Each week, we like to do a quiz with an author. What we like to say is these quizzes are theme adjacent to the author.
Okay.
So I say it's an Echo quiz. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has anything to do with the book Echo.
Okay.
This quiz has more to do with the concept of echoes.
Okay.
And I said, like I said, this is in honor of Nancy, who works for us at the bookstore, and she loves Echo. And so I wanted to just give her a shout out. And also, Echo's a great book, so why not? And then Echo's also an interesting concept. So, Pam, we have 5 questions for you.
Okay.
Graham, you can keep score here for me because I know the scoring is so important for this quiz.
Yes, it is.
These are all multiple choice.
Okay.
Okay, Pam, you may know about whispering galleries. Have you heard of a whispering gallery before?
No.
Okay. So for those of you, for people who don't know, a whispering gallery is it's usually constructed in the form of a circular wall, and it allows whispered communication from any point of the internal side of the circumference to any other part. Okay. So that sounds like a lot of science there and math. The idea is the sound is carried by sound waves, and they travel around, they kind of cling to the wall. So this was discovered in the Whispering Gallery of St. Paul's Cathedral in London, which is one of the most famous, beautiful churches in the world. Okay, so this got me thinking. St. Paul's Cathedral is on the River Thames. That's a weird name for a river. It's not even pronounced how it's spelled, right? Thames. So what I want to know from you, Pam, is which of the following other weird river names is the best? Okay, so like I said, it's only theme adjacent. Okay, here we go. A, Good Morning Bill, a creek in Australia. It's called Good Morning Bill Creek. Kill Me Dead Creek in Australia. Australians, I guess they like to name their rivers weird things. Duckabush River in Washington State, or the Withywindle in The Lord of the Rings.
Well, I think I have to go with Withywindle. Don't you think? I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Graham, is she right on that one?
Oh, well, I'm marking that correct. I already did.
I think that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting one here. You may have heard this, Pam. There is a rumor that some sounds do not echo. So, for example, a dog's bark or the quack of a duck. Have you heard this before?
I have not.
So some people believe that the sound of a dog's bark, for example, does not echo. Now, they think that what's probably true is that the human ear cannot actually process the sound of the echo, and that in reality, there's no reason that that particular sound itself shouldn't echo. It's something to do with the human ear. But this got me thinking. There are some sounds that are so bad, I wish I didn't have to hear them once, let alone multiple times. So, which of these sounds is the worst sound that you would like to not echo? Okay, here we go. Classic one. Fingernails on a chalkboard. B, a poorly played violin. C, a train screeching on a train track. Which I learned in my research is a sound that is one of the most commonly most hated sounds. Or D, the sound of silence. So A, fingernails on a chalkboard. B, a poorly played violin. C, a train screeching on a track as it comes to a stop. Or D, the sound of silence.
Are you talking about the Simon and Garfunkel song, or just the silence?
Hey, you can read that however you want.
It's a good song.
Okay, I'm going to say C.
Train screeching on a track. Yeah. I actually think this is the correct one. That's my personal. I agree with this one.
You know how much louder that is than fingernails on a chalkboard?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also a poorly played violin is at least evidence of typically practice happening.
Well, and I played a very poor violin. That's totally part of my history, so I'm very familiar with it, and it didn't bother me in the least.
Okay, so here's question 3. So you probably know that the word echo derives from a Greek word, which means sound. And echo, there's a character in the Greek mythology, she was a nymph. I think she was a mountain nymph who, if I'm not mistaken, her ability to speak was cursed, leaving her basically only able to repeat the last words spoken to her. Okay, so as if in imitation of this, many children will sometimes do that really annoying thing where they repeat the words their siblings say incessantly, right? As if it's the last thing they heard, and they repeat it over and over again, and they drive their siblings crazy, and then they get into fights, and then they drive their parents crazy, and usually this happens on road trips. Am I speaking from experience? Yes.
Yeah.
Which of the following is equally as annoying as that very annoying thing that children do on road trip? Okay. So, A, getting stung by a bee. B, getting a flat tire on that road trip while that is happening. C, stepping on that lone Lego in the dead of night. Or D, when your child uses your toothbrush.
Oh, I'm going with C, the Lego in the middle of the night.
I will say I recently experienced this, so it has been on my mind, so I will accept that as the correct answer.
It's been on your mind and on your foot.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yes,
C
exactly.
is correct. I agree.
I'm surprised you didn't have a 3-year-old asking you why repeatedly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That you're right. I should have put that in there. That was an oversight on my part. Okay, question 4. 2 more questions. 60% of the way through this quiz. So far, you are passing with flying colors. Okay, so apparently, about half of the 900 species of bats use echolocation, which is a type of sonar. So which stands for sound navigation and ranging. So some whales and dolphins also use echolocation. So when I was researching echolocation, I read multiple scientists who described it as a complicated game of Marco Polo in the wild. So the swimming pool game where Marco Polo.
Yeah.
Okay. So this naturally got me thinking about the best strategies for playing Marco Polo in the pool. So, Pam, which of the following is the best way to play Marco Polo in the pool? A, dive under the water and swim around to avoid having to yell "Polo" when the person says Marco. So that's, you got to hold your breath for a while. B, be that one player who gets out of the pool and runs and jumps to distract the person who is yelling Marco while risking being caught as the fish out of the water. So you get to be that person. C, be the kid who sneaks as close to the person who is it as possible and risks getting caught. The person who likes to live on the edge. Or D, hide out in the corner like a coward.
I would be underwater, A.
Yeah. Okay. Graham, what's your strategy for Marco Polo?
Well, I haven't thought about this in about 20 years, but you're bringing it back to the forefront. I would be underwater as well.
Okay.
I do not understand the person standing close. That doesn't make sense.
No, either. I'm a good swimmer and I can hold my breath for a really long time. So
Oh, it's a no-brainer then.
Lung capacity for the win. That is the correct answer. All right.
Okay. All right. Last question in this this echo quiz. So I discovered during my research on echoes that in 2014, an acoustic scientist named Trevor Cox shattered the world record for the longest ever echo.
Oh, cool.
He's an acoustic engineer at the University of Salford in Manchester, and he recorded the sound of a gunshot echoing in an oil tank. First of all, this is not the question, but how long would you guess that echo lasted? Either of you, if you had to guess.
5 minutes?
No, 1 minute. But that's still the longest echo ever recorded. Okay. So this is cool, but you know what's really cool? A coat of arms. Like the coat of arms for the city of Manchester where this experiment was conducted. Which of the following creatures does not show up on the city of Manchester's coat of arms? Okay. All right, here we go. All right. A badger. B, an antelope. C, a honeybee. Or D, a lion.
Antelope.
Is that your final answer?
It is.
Okay. No, it's actually a badger.
Oh.
The one, so the chief, so what this coat of arms.
Did I miss the transition from the longest echo to the coat of arms? Was there?
Yes.
Was there?
We all did. We all collectively
He did that.
Understand what David is doing.
Graham, that's rich coming from you, Graham. Normally you do these quizzes. So he did it at the university in Manchester. So then I started thinking about the city of Manchester, and that got me to the coat of arms because the coat of arms of the city of Manchester is actually pretty cool.
Okay.
So what it is there is a ship in full sail, which represents the city's trade with the rest of the world. And then on either side of the shield are a pair of supporters, an antelope and a lion, which each are bearing the red rose of Lancaster on its shoulder, which goes back to Henry IV. The lion is said to symbolize bravery, while the antelope stands for peace, harmony, courage, and discipline. And then at the top, the crest consists of 7 bees flying over the globe, which symbolizes Manchester's industry exports being taken all over the world. So, like I said, it was only echo adjacent.
Yes.
Yeah, but they need the antelope? They seem like they got a lot going on there. In that
that's true.
I would say a badger would be a better choice. So I'm going to mark it down as correct.
I think you should.
I'm going to write the city of Manchester and petition them to change it.
Right. I was a little confused about where they find antelopes in Great Britain. What's the plural of antelope? Is antelope the plural of antelope?
Yes, I think so.
All right. Graham, we got a couple more questions here, and then we got our word of the week. You want to do one, or should I?
You can do. Why don't you go ahead and do them?
Okay. So, well, first of all, I want to ask you this, Pam. What are you working on right now? Are you working on anything new that kids can look out for?
Right. Well, over the last year or so, I finished the script for the graphic novel of Esperanza Rising, and that's being illustrated right now by Andre Ferris Martinez. And It should be out, I think, next year. I'm not sure exactly. We don't have it on a list yet. I also wrote Solimar I wrote that for Disney. They came to me and solicited my participation. They asked if I would be interested in writing an original Latina princess story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And that came out in February, this past February.
Yeah.
And then right now I'm knee deep in a new novel. And not sure what the title will be. I mean, as you might know, the title is one of those things that many people get to weigh in on at the publishing house. So it's usually, some of my books have had lists of over 100 possible titles. So I'm probably 150 pages in. It also has a lot of magical realism that actually borderlines and crosses over a bit into fantasy. So it's a little bit of a departure for me.
Are you finding that, is it fun or is it a challenge or is it,
it's fun. I mean, whenever you do something different out of your comfort zone, it's all of those things, a challenge, but also fun. And it's just, it's always interesting to make your brain work differently and not stay that kind of in the same lane. I'm not sure how it will all in the end come together, but I will tell you this about it. The book is framed with the El Nino weather effect plays a huge part in the story.
That sounds very interesting. And you don't know when that's coming out?
I don't. It's not on a list yet, but
okay. What was it like doing the graphic novel for a book that you'd already written?
It was great because I already had a story in place, and it became a formatting issue. I reached out. My publisher asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, and my editor encouraged me and said, "I think you can do this." And one thing I found out is there isn't really an industry standard for the format of how you submit just the text. So I used Final Draft and wrote it in more or less a play format with all the dialogue and it's still long. It's still over 200 pages, but so I had the story in place, and it was a matter of me putting it in a format that would work for the illustrator.
This makes me wonder, would you ever want to actually write an original screenplay or something like that? Or have you?
I haven't. I've always been something that, I've thought about, but I've never really had the time to really pay attention to it. It's not in my wheelhouse exactly.
Yeah.
So, I feel like in order to do it well, I would have to really do a lot of, I would really need to do my homework as far as figuring out the right approach and the way to do it well. So.
Okay, Graham, I think it's that time. I think it's time to do the word of the week. But did Garglehauser, the bookstore troll, did he send us a note this week, or did he just forget about us now that he's like in the Mediterranean or Russia or something?
He sent us a note.
He did? Okay.
I just checked the mailbox and it was right in there.
Oh, well, that's good.
All right. So he always sends us a postcard, but I think he gets confused and thinks it's a telegram because he writes stop a lot. So let's just see what. All right. This way. Okay, here we go. All right. It says, "Dear Softskins." Well, I'm not so sure about that title, but we'll roll with it. Okay. It says, "I found some oil drips heading east. So I'm taking an airplane to China." All right. So he's moving.
Okay.
Maybe my friend went that way. Stop. No one will sit next to me on the plane. They're complaining about smell. So they upgraded me to first class. Stop. Well, that's nice of them.
Yeah, that worked out well for him.
Eating yucky steak and drinking champagne, but luckily we'll be landing soon and can find better slop to eat. Okay. Well, all right. And then it says, "Here's your word." All right. You want to peel it off?
I'll peel it off and...
Okay. Okay. Interesting. He chooses the weirdest words. Okay. This week's word of the week is, are you ready for it? Oxter. 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 So we're going to take a second. We're going to write down what we think this word means, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on this before we unveil what the word really means. Okay, we are back. Now, our custom is that Graham goes first, and then I'll go, and then our special guest will go third. So you get the place of honor. So, Graham, what do you think oxter means?
Okay, so this one was tricky, but I think I landed in the right spot.
Okay.
All right. So Oxter is Oxter. It's actually the latest model of the Volkswagen. It's the Volkswagen Oxter.
Okay.
And it emits what sounds like a low frequency rumble as it goes by, but when the rumble echoes back at you, like when you're walking next to it, it's actually words of affirmation, like you're doing your best. That's what you hear when the Oxter drives by. It's great.
The Volkswagen Oxter? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I got it. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
You know what's ironic is that mine has to do with transportation too, but kind of in the opposite end of the spectrum, because I thought that I had heard that the Oxter is a special hat that drivers of horse-drawn carriages would wear. It's like a tall bowler hat with special straps that would hold it onto their head. So think like, the helmets that or that jockeys wear. It's like that, but in the 19th century, and it was also a little bit of a top hat thing going on. That's what I thought an Oxter was. Probably derived from something related to the city of Oxford or something.
That actually sounds real. You could have told me that. I learned that today, and I would have believed you.
Okay, so we've got those two. What do you think Oxter is, Pam?
Well, I was torn. I sort of thought it was somebody that maybe drove, a team of oxen, or the yoke that goes on oxen when they're driving them. So I thought that it maybe, so I guess I would have to go with maybe the name for the person that drives a team of oxen.
Okay. An oxter. That does make sense.
Like, a farmer, like.
Yeah.
Oxter.
It makes a lot of sense. Okay. So I'm going to open this up, flip it over here, and okay. So this actually has nothing to do with oxen or transportation or sartorial choices. Oxter is a funny but mildly outdated term for the armpit.
Would have never guessed.
Yeah, same. So that's this week's word of the week, oxter. So if you ever need to talk about armpits without being rude, I don't know why talking about armpits would be rude, but you can just talk about the oxter. Oh boy.
I think I was pretty close.
I don't know. Okay, Pam, before we let you go, one more question for you. This is from Eliana, and this is kind of a tough question. If you had to choose one thing to save from a burning house that is not a person or a pet, what would it be?
Wow. I'm not sure. I guess obvious things would be to. I'm trying to think if I can think of one thing that I would need to have that might put my life in jeopardy if I still. I would be sad to lose family photos, and I would be sad to lose a lot of books. But there were certainly things that I might not be able to grab. So I'm really torn on that. I think that getting out with my life might be the one thing I hang on.
Yeah,
it would be the one thing I hang on to the most.
Totally fair.
If it couldn't be a family pet or a person,
maybe an extra pair of socks.
A bar of chocolate.
A copy of Esperanza Rising.
Well, all of those. But that's the thing. Books can be replaced, and there's so many things that can be replaced.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Pam, thank you so much for coming on and listening to our weird questions and our weird quizzes and our word of the week, and just hanging out and goofing around with us. We really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for your books, of course, as well. To everybody who's listening, make sure you go get Pam's new book. Pam, you said that it's Solimar. That's right. Remember that right?
It's the brand new one, and Manana Land. Manana Land was the one right before it. So those are my two newest titles.
And I read Solimar and really like that. So I definitely encourage everybody to go check that out. So Pam, thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to be here and happy reading.
Well, that was our conversation with Pam Munoz Ryan. We are so grateful and excited that she was able to come on. So thanks to her. Go check out her books. But that brings us to riddle time.
It can bing us. It's
Logan,
fine.
can you put a sound effect here that reminds you of a bing?
Oh, that was a good one. I hope.
It does sound like a bing to me. Okay, so it's riddle time. Last week, I shared a riddle about two men who were in love with the same woman. One was a doctor and one was a bus driver.
That was Sherman and Sherwood.
Yeah, and they...
or Sherwood and Sherman.
And then Shirley was the...
Shirley
was the woman,
was
yeah.
girl, yes.
And the bus driver, he had to go away for a week. So
Yeah.
he gave as a gift to Shirley 7 apples. Why did he do that, Graham?
Because an apple a day.
Keeps the doctor away. Did people get it right?
Tons, everybody, yes, lots and lots of right answers.
You think these riddles are too hard, and then the kids prove you wrong.
They do. I'm like, every time an email comes in, it actually goes bing. It goes bing.
Logan, can you do it again?
And then it's another right answer. And I'm just shocked because I find these difficult.
Okay, well, are you ready for this week's?
Probably not, but I will bing my best. That didn't really work, but
Didn't really work, but it's in keeping with everything else you say on this podcast. Okay, so here's this week's riddle.
okay.
Once there was a policeman, okay, by the name of Clark Kermit Dodge Bucket. Kermit Dodge Bucket. His name's Clark, anyway.
Clark, okay.
Hard to come up with names on the spot.
Agreed.
Should have planned ahead. And he was called to the scene of a crime as police
Officer Bucket.
Officer Kermit Dodge Bucket.
Officer
KDB.
KDP.
And it was a robbery of a jewelry store that he gets called to.
Oh, it's probably $1 million of jewels.
So, how many zeros in that jewelry? So, after he investigated the crime, he goes back to his police station and he has to write his report of what he saw, as police officers do.
Okay.
So, he sits down and he describes how at the scene he met a guy named Tom, and Tom's father owned the store. And it's a beautiful jewelry store with lots and lots of glass cases full of diamonds and beautiful lights shining on it. And there's even a coffee bar at the jewelry store. Like,
Are you adding details in to confuse me?
what? No.
Okay.
And while investigating, he begins to believe that the suspects were the owner's sons.
Oh,
They're faking the crime for their own benefit.
they stole their own stuff?
So they had somebody else steal it.
Okay.
So while he's writing his report, he realized he could only remember 2 of the names. And he could remember Jim and John, but he couldn't remember the 3rd son. So the trouble is, without that 3rd son, he couldn't finish his report. So he needs your help. Who is the 3rd son of the jewelry store owner so he can finish his report and solve the crime?
I gotta say, Officer Bucket, Clark Bucket, Kermit
Dodge Bucket.
gotta bring a notebook to the scene of a crime.
Thank you. You know, we wouldn't, but on the other hand, we wouldn't have a riddle without it.
I mean, I suppose not, but I mean, I when we went to Officer Police Academy, I remember that first day before we got kicked
Officer
out.
training, yeah, right.
Yeah.
They were like, you probably should go do podcasts or something.
There was no second day, but on the first day, they were
thing
like,
they taught us.
bring the notebook.
Right.
And then they were like, step 2, bring the pen.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And we were like, got it.
Well, actually, it was a test because, I don't know if you remember this, it was a test. They said, bring a notebook. And the test was, would we be able to solve that we need to bring a pen the next day?
Oh.
And you forgot to, so they kicked us out.
Yeah, they did not.
I mean, they kicked me out too, along with you, because we're like a, I
yeah,
guess we're
because
like
you were looking at my tests.
I don't remember any of that. So anyway, who was the 3rd son of the jewelry store owner? Jim and John were the ones he could remember.
Okay.
And there's a 3rd son. So who is the 3rd son?
All right.
So that's this week's riddle. If you think you know it, what should they do if they think they know it?
They should email us at podcasts@goldberrybooks.com.
That's right. And if you send us the correct answer, you will get entered into our seasonal competition where we will give away a book bundle to one lucky person who got at least one riddle correct this season. And before we go, thanks of course to Pam Munoz Ryan. Thanks to SD Smith for sponsoring, but also please go to the Kickstarter for the Golden Road of Tumbleweed Thompson, and be sure to support that. Because we want that book to get published, and you can help make it so. You can be a part of publishing history.
Yeah.
By helping make that book.
Yes, I really want to see this book get made, and we can all be a part of helping that happen. And the Golden Road of Tumbleweed Thompson, I want to know that story.
I know, for real. I mean, how are we going to know how the
incredible.
story goes if it doesn't get kickstarted? Anyway, I don't want to get worked up about it, but this needs to happen.
And once you've done that, once you've gone and helped this Kickstarter out, by the way, it's not a donation. You
get stuff.
You get stuff. You get the book. It's like
Right,
a pre-order.
exactly. It's a pre-order,
Or you
yeah.
get the cool shirts, or it's some cool stuff.
Yeah.
After you've done that, head on over to your where you like to listen to podcasts and maybe leave us a review.
You could tap that little star button.
Yeah.
And I mean, if
3
you-
stars, 4
maybe fourth.
stars,
Ideally 5.
5 stars.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
We love seeing those reviews come in. We love reading you guys' thoughts there, and that helps our show. It helps get the word out. So,
And of course, it always helps when you share episodes and tell your friends and tell your siblings. But anyway, so again, thanks to Pam Munoz Ryan, thanks to all of our sponsors, and thanks to Glenn McCarty for coming on and sharing his Western knowledge. Graham, thank you for coming here and eating snacks and